This video we are going to discuss few topics from the chapter Circulatory System of book Concise Biology class 10th, and the topic which we are going to discuss today is composition of blood. In our previous video we have discussed about the need for the transportation in the body, types of fluids in the body, properties of blood, and the functions of blood. If you haven't watched that video, go and watch that video first before watching this video. So let's start the topic for the day, the composition of blood. Blood consists of two parts, the liquid part, that is fluid part, called plasma, and it is near about 55 to 60% in blood. The second part is the cellular elements. These are red, white, and platelets. These are the three types of cellular elements, and these are near about 40 to 45% of the blood. So overall, blood is made up of two different constituents, plasma and circular elements. Moving on further, the different liquid portion, that is plasma, contains several other portions. That is, it consists of water 90 to 92%, it consists of protein 7 to 8%, plasma also contains inorganic salts near about 1%, and plasma may also contain certain other substances that are only in few traces. The inorganic salts, which are near about 1%, mainly includes sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate salts, while the other substances which are present in traces, they are traces of glucose, traces of amino acids, traces of fibrinogen, traces of hormones, traces of urea. So this shows that plasma consists of several other parts: water, protein, inorganic salt, and organic salts. The plasma, which is the fluid portion of the blood, it contains a compound fibrinogen in it. If a plasma does not contain fibrinogen in it, or if fibrinogen has been removed from the plasma, then that plasma is called serum. Means serum is that plasma from which fibrinogen has been removed. Moving on further to the cellular elements, we have just studied that cellular elements are of three types. Those are red, white, and platelets, and their full names are red blood cells known as erythrocytes, white blood cells known as leukocytes, and blood platelets which are known as thrombocytes. So these are the three different cellular elements present inside the blood. Moving on further, we will study in detail the three types of cellular elements present in the blood. The first cellular element present in the blood are the red blood cells, which are known as erythrocytes. These cells are actually the oxygen carriers. These cells carry oxygen with it. These erythrocytes are having the structure of biconcave, disc-like, flat in the center, thick and rounded at the corners, that means periphery. So this is the structure of the red blood cell. The red blood cell is minute, biconcave, it's a disc-like, it's flat in the center, it's thick and rounded at the periphery. Periphery means at the outer portion. Here the structure of RBCs is visualized. You can see that it is rounded, it is biconcave, it's flat at the center, thin at the center, it's thick at the periphery region, and rounded at the periphery region. So these are the red blood cells. Moving on further about the red blood cells, the size of the red blood cell is about 7 micron. It's about 7 micron. The size, which is very much small, and we have studied that it is concave on both the sides, mean it is biconcave, which means that it is having cavities on both the sides. The purpose of these cavities is to provide a large surface area which makes them very sufficient to absorb oxygen. The biconcave nature of the red blood cells helps in absorbing of oxygen, helps in more absorption of oxygen. An adult human is having near about 5 million RBCs per cubic millimeter of blood, while the adult female is having about 4.5 millions of RBCs per cubic millimeter of blood. Moving on further, let's study about hemoglobin. In our last video, we have studied the pigment called hemoglobin. This is a pigment which carries oxygen and carbon dioxide in blood. This hemoglobin is a effective chemical constituent of red blood cells, and it's known as the respiratory pigment hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is actually having two different parts. The heme part, which is made up of iron, and globin part, which is made up of protein. So altogether, hemoglobin is made up of iron and protein. As we have discussed in our previous video, that this hemoglobin has the ability to combine with oxygen and carbon dioxide. When oxygen attaches to the hemoglobin for the circulation in the body, it's called oxyhemoglobin, and oxyhemoglobin is an unstable compound which readily gives up oxygen to the required tissues. Means wherever oxygen is required, hemoglobin deattaches the attached oxygen to it and provides that oxygen to the required needy tissues. Hemoglobin is also able to attach to the carbon dioxide. When hemoglobin attaches to carbon dioxide, it's called carbaaminohemoglobin. And when hemoglobin attaches to carbon dioxide, it carries carbon dioxide back towards the lung for the new oxygenation process. Carbaaminohemoglobin is also an unstable compound, and carbon dioxide is liberated very easily from the hemoglobin so that hemoglobin can carry new oxygen molecules to the required needy tissues. Here we have to understand that hemoglobin is having a strong affinity towards a gas which is called carbon monoxide. This carbon monoxide gas, when inhaled, it attaches to the hemoglobin and it forms a very stable compound called carboxyhemoglobin. As this is a stable compound and this carbon monoxide does not leave hemoglobin once it's attached to it, therefore the hemoglobin cannot remove carbon monoxide from its surface. Because of this, there is a shortage of hemoglobin to carry oxygen for the needy tissues. Thus, this cuts down the capacity of the blood of transporting oxygen, and sometimes because of much carbon monoxide attached to the hemoglobin, in the form of carboxyhemoglobin, it may lead to the death of the person also. This carbon monoxide gas is a very poisonous gas, and it is usually produced from the furnaces. In Punjabi it's called pathiyan, angithiyan, and if the room is not ventilated, then this carbon monoxide gas remain inside the room, and the person sleeping in the room inhale carbon monoxide gas, and this carbon monoxide gas combines with oxygen, and this carbon monoxide gas combines with hemoglobin, and it forms carboxyhemoglobin, and because of the shortage of oxygen, it leads to the death of the person sleeping in the non-ventilated room containing carbon monoxide. Moving on further, let's study about the life cycle of RBCs. RBCs are produced in the bone marrows of long bones, especially in adults. Red blood cells are also produced in the bones of ribs, in the breastbone, and also in the ileum of hip girdle. Thus we can say that the production of red blood cells is in the marrow of long bones, ribs, breastbone, and ileum of hip girdle. In the embryonic stage, RBCs are produced in liver as well as in spleen. In the children age, RBCs are produced in near about all the bones up to age of the 5. Every bone is producing RBC in children at the age of 5. Moving on further, the red blood cells, when become mature, they lose nuclei from it. They were having the nucleus when they were born, but when they become mature, when red blood cells becomes mature, the nuclei is lost, and now you can say that the red blood cells has become enucleated. The average life of the red blood cell is about 120 days. After 120 days, the RBCs die of itself, and the died RBC is destroyed in the spleen, or it is destroyed in liver, and sometimes they are also destroyed in bone marrow. The iron part of the red blood cells, they are retained in the liver, and these red blood cells, dead red blood cells, they excrete a pigment called bilirubin. Hence we can say that this pigment bilirubin is formed because of the dead red blood cells in the body. As they are having the life cycle of 120 days, it is assumed that near about 2 millions of RBCs are destroyed per second, and the new RBCs are born. Few more things about the red blood cells. The one thing we have just studied is that the red blood cells were having the nucleus when they were born, and the nucleus degenerates, and the cell when becomes mature, it is enucleated. The loss of nucleus from the red blood cells helps in increasing the surface area volume ratio for absorbing more oxygen. Since the nucleus degenerates itself, the space which was occupied by the nucleus is now used for carrying oxygen. The red blood cells don't carry mitochondria also. They don't have mitochondria. It means that that red blood cells are not using oxygen for themselves. Because the purpose of mitochondria is to release energy by using oxygen. Since red blood cells are not having mitochondria in it, therefore they don't use oxygen and they only helps in transporting the oxygen molecules from the lungs to the various parts of the body. The third thing to remember is red blood cells also don't carry endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum organelle, it makes the structure hard. Because of the lacking of this organelle, the red blood cell becomes somewhat flexible, and now the red blood cell can easily pass through the different narrow capillaries to provide the required oxygen to the different needy tissues. Hence we can say that loss of or no endoplasmic reticulum helps in the flexibility of red blood cells. The few things more about RBCs are that a newly born infant has much more count of RBCs per cubic millimeter of blood. It's near about 6 to 7 millions of RBCs. While a person is sleeping, RBCs is decreased by 5%. When a person performs physical exercise, or when a lady is pregnant, or when a person is having emotional setups, then the count of RBCs increases in the body. People, those who are living in the hilly areas, means at the height of about 4,200 meters, it's recorded that they are having about 30% more RBCs in their blood to fulfill the amount of oxygen, because at hilly area the amount of oxygen is less. More the count of oxygen and less the count of oxygen means more energy and less energy. If a person wants to have more oxygen, it means it should have more RBCs to carry on oxygen. And with the lack of red blood cells, the amount of oxygen will also decrease in the human body. This accounts for the particular amount of specific count of RBCs present in the blood of the human body per cubic millimeter of blood. If a person is having more count of RBCs or less count of RBCs, it's not a normal condition, it's an abnormality. And if a person is having more RBC count in the blood, then the condition is called polycythemia. And if a person is having decreased amount of RBCs in the blood, then it is called erythropenia. Both are the abnormal conditions. That's all in this video.